I am very sorry that I can't be with you today. I know the worksheet from yesterday was a little bit harder than we were expecting, and that's okay, so I don't even want you to worry about it, okay? I do want to talk to you about compound inequalities, which are nice because they're just like regular inequalities, but they have two kind of inequalities in them, okay? So let's go ahead and talk through this. Go ahead and write this problem down on just a separate sheet of paper for me. Feel free to pause this video as we need to, okay? So when we're doing this, we're just going to draw our two balance beams on both of the inequalities, just like we used to do with one inequality, okay? And I'm going to look at the middle, and I'm going to say, what is stopping n from being by itself? I see that we have a 9 here. It's being added to n, so I'm going to subtract the 9 to get rid of it. But now we're going to subtract it on the right-hand side of the inequality and on the left-hand side of the inequality. So -1 minus 9 is -10. My inequality did not change because I did not multiply or divide by a negative. 9 minus 9 is 0. 17 minus 9 would give me 8. Excuse me. And now n is by itself, so I can graph it, okay? Now the graphing is just slightly different too, but nothing too challenging for us. I'm just going to go ahead and write both the -10 and the 8, okay? Since I have a less than at the -10, I'm going to have my open circle, and a less than at 8, I'm going to also have my open circle. And now I'm going to look at each inequality separately. So this first inequality says n is greater than -10. So I'm going to draw my little arrow going greater than -10. Now this one says n is less than 8. So both of these statements are true at the same time. N is greater than -10 and n needs to be less than 8. So since I see my arrows pointing towards each other, I'm going to shade the middle of this, okay? So that means any number between -10 and 8 could be a solution. So I could have 1 as a solution. I could have 2 as a solution, okay? Remember, -10 and 8 exactly cannot be solutions because we have our open dot there. But I could have -10.111111, right? And 7.99999 as an answer. Okay? Moving on. Let's go ahead and solve this one. I'm going to rewrite this as p over 2 just so I can see it a little bit better. And again, I'm going to draw my inequalities, my balance beams, I should say. And I'm going to say, what's stopping p from being by itself? That's 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. I'm going to get -6 is less than p because my 2's cancel out over 0. Again, I don't have to flip my inequalities because I didn't divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. And since p is by itself, we can go ahead and graph it. Again, I'm just going to write my two numbers, -6 and 0. I see those are going to both be open dots. Again, I'm going to look at each inequality separately. So this says p is greater than -6 and p is less than 0. So that middle is going to be shaded. It won't always be the middle. Sometimes when you see it, it'll be pointing outwards, and sometimes it will be pointing inwards. It just depends. So you definitely want to double check both of those. Okay? So again, because p is less than 0, that's why it was pointing this way. And therefore, we know it's shaded in the middle. So we could have anything from -6 to 0. Okay? Again, feel free to pause this video anytime that we need to catch up. Excuse me. Let's do a two-step one. Again, nothing's going to change about this. I'm going to say, what is stopping x from being by itself? So I'm going to subtract that 6 because we're going to still follow backwards PEMDAS. So we get -56 is less than 7x, which is less than -14. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 7. So -56 divided by 7 is 8. I didn't divide by a negative, so my inequality is not going to flip. And then -14 divided by 7 is 2. And we're going to go ahead, excuse me, and graph these. Now, please be careful here. I can see that I have this should be a -8. My apologies, and -2. Forgot about my signs there. So this is -8 to -2, which is in the right order. Again, I drew both of them as open dots because they are less thans. If I look here, x is greater than -8, and x is less than -2, so my middle is in fact highlighted. Okay, and these are what we call and statements because these things can both be true at the same time. X can be greater than -8 and less than -2 at the same time. Okay, now sometimes we will have what are called or statements. We still solve these the same way. So again, I'm going to have my balance beam. I see A is not by itself, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get A is greater than 5. I'm going to do the same thing on this side over here. I'm going to add 4. So I get A is less than 1. Okay, and I'm going to draw these on the same number line. I'm going to put 1 to the left and 5 on the right, so that way my smaller is on the right. I can see they're both going to be open dots. So if I'm over here, this says A is less than 1, so I know it's going to go this way. But A is greater than 5, so it needs to go this way. So this is an or statement, and I like to think of or statements as like oars on a boat, because they're like facing away. If this was my little boat here, they're facing away from my boat like oars. Okay. All right. So you should also be able to go backwards. So if I give you a compound inequality, such as this, so go ahead and draw that out. Pause the video if you need to. I would put my x in the middle. I would say x has to be greater than or equal to 5. Since I have my closed dot, I know it's an equal to. And this direction, x has to be less than 11. Okay, so you should also be able to write a compound inequality if given the graph. Okay, go ahead and start your homework that's posted to Google Classroom. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.